Hello, and welcome to Game Develop Repeat, the podcast where we talk about a game that I love, what makes it special, and what we, as game developers, can learn from it. I am your host, Chris, and in today's episode, we're talking about multiple games. We're talking about Celeste, we're talking about World of Warcraft, we're talking about some JRPGs, we're talking about Dark Souls, and we're talking about something that all of them, in my opinion, do. This is something that is a fundamental concept within game design. It is something that just naturally exists within most games that I can think of, and it is the upward spiral. It is also something that exists in our own lives when we're trying to learn a new skill. I'm getting fairly abstract with it, but I think that once I explain what I mean by this, it's going to make a lot of sense very quickly, and you're going to see it everywhere if you don't already notice it. I think most people that play a lot of games have experienced this and will understand it on an almost instinctual level. I want to make it explicit. I want to talk about it very clearly and very directly, even though it seems like an obvious principle. So let's get started by talking about a few games, and then we'll get into how we can apply this to our own development later on. So what am I talking about when I talk about an upward spiral? Well, it's the reverse of a downward spiral. I'll make two video game examples for you really quickly for anybody who's not familiar with these concepts. Imagine that you're fighting a boss in a RPG and you're locked in. You can only fight this boss. You have to fight this boss until you beat it. But every time that you lose against this boss, you take a permanent stat debuff. You can't go grind. You have to beat this boss, and every time you lose, you take a permanent stat debuff. You lose 10 times, you're kind of screwed. You keep losing, you're in trouble. You're in this downward spiral. Before you know it, you're basically back down to level 1, no power, no ability, and you're fighting this boss, and there's no way out, and it just feels like you have no power. This is what happens with a downward spiral in my mind. You reach this point. Where you're like, how am I supposed to do anything about this? This is hopeless, I'm trapped, whatever. And in a game, that would be horrible game design, right? Or brutal, I should say. Not horrible. That would be brutal game design to make somebody have that problem, to make somebody have this point where it's like, well, my save file is doomed because realistically, if I didn't beat this boss in the first 3 tries, it became impossible for me to beat this boss. And I didn't beat it in the first 3 tries, right? It's brutal, brutal game design. An upward spiral would be the version of this where every time you fight the boss, maybe you get better at fighting the boss, or you could have something where there's an easy place to grind. And as you grind, you get more powerful, and then boom, now you can fight the boss. And you beat the boss, now you're way more powerful because you got a big EXP bonus from him. And now, next time you fight a boss like that, now he just turns into a regular old enemy. You can fight that boss anytime. And now you have all these other opportunities. Anybody who wants somebody to kill one of those big bad guys, you're the guy. You've already done it before. You've done it 5 times before. So now everybody's coming to you saying, hey, please help me with this. You have a ton of opportunities, you can make a ton of money, so on and so on, right? This is the upward spiral. Now, this might just sound like progression. The reason I'm framing this as an upward spiral instead of as progression in a video game is because I think it's more applicable to real life and game development. I think talking about your progression in life has a different feeling than progression through a video game. Progression through a video game feels very linear. It feels like, okay, cool, done. Progression in real life feels like just a weird sentence to me. So that's why we're talking about this in terms of spirals rather than just linear progression. Now, let's talk about a few games and let's talk about a few examples of this upward spiral thing because I think it's everywhere. All right, I think it's all over the place. We'll talk about 2 that are very easy, very direct. World of Warcraft. You start with nothing, you build massive riches. That's how I view World of Warcraft. You start with no money, you're broke, and then by the end of the game, you're dirty, dirty rich. You're so crazy rich, and you have all this gear and all this power and all this other stuff. It's like an economic game. Yes, there is also your character's power. Yes, there are gameplay mechanics. Yes, there's all this other stuff, but I think ultimately that game is about investing time and then getting in-game wealth. That's kind of how I frame it. It's also about power. It's also about building power, but I think it's mostly through like a gear acquisition and character unlocks and stuff. I think that game is mostly about financial power. So you start with very little, and then you keep investing your time and effort, and you get more and more and more powerful in that perspective. Now, speaking of power, JRPGs, you start fighting a little rat and almost dying to it, and then by the end of it, you are fighting literal deities, right? Same idea. You're progressing gradually. You're getting stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. And then by the time you reach the end of it, you're like, yeah, of course I'm fighting a deity. What? Like, I'm not going to fight a rat all day. I got better at fighting the rat, and then I got better at fighting the goblin, and then the bandits, and I got better at fighting the mountain, the what do we even call this? The like weird deity mountain that's not fully a deity. And the only step up from fighting a literal mountain is fighting a deity. So now we're doing that. It's that kind of strange progression. So you just get more and more powerful. You build on top of it. Now we go into the games I'm really excited about. All right, because building up stats, it has some corollaries to real life. It's connected, right? It's like World of Warcraft, if that's financial spiral upwards, and if a JRPG is a spiral of like your stats, like basically your weightlifting numbers, right? It's like how many times have you gone to the gym? How much grinding have you done? Oh, good, now you can do a heavier squat. Now, Celeste is a building up of confidence and skill. Celeste is a game which ties its narrative in to its gameplay in such a way that it manages to latch onto the idea of confidence and do an upward spiral for that. That's what I find fascinating about this, because the progression of this game, just the straight linear progression going on here, is easy level to really difficult level. And you learn a bunch of stuff along the way. You learn some new mechanics and stuff, right? But the emotional journey that the character is going on takes you from I'm getting better at playing this game to I'm helping this character become more confident, and I'm mirroring that emotional journey in myself, right? And that is where I get really excited about this concept. That is where I get really hyped about this idea of building up this sort of, it's almost a spiral curriculum within a game. You're using the game not in a preachy way, but you're using the game to build up some kind of a skill in the player. I think Bennett Foddy is doing this on purpose. Every time this guy comes out with a getting over it game or a taking a first step game or whatever really difficult game he comes out with, I swear he is on some level going, I'm going to teach these people to do hard things, and then they're going to do hard things, and it's going to be awesome. And 20 years from now, there's going to be a bunch of gamers who are like, yeah, well, when I beat Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy, I realized that I was capable of a lot more than I thought I was, because I never thought I would beat that game, and then I did, right? This is interesting to me. This is the stuff where I go, that's weird. And I'm not, let me be really clear about this, I'm not suggesting that everybody gamify all these aspects of life and try to teach people all these. I think gamification can get really over the line, but when there's a game that genuinely seems like an interesting and fun idea that also has some kind of weird real life mirroring, I think it's exciting and fun. I think it's interesting. I think it's intriguing. So Celeste does this with confidence. I think Celeste has a way of teaching people like, yeah, maybe you can do more than you thought you could without doing the brutal brick wall thing, you know? It has a very interesting emotional journey that it takes you on. And it takes you from lack of confidence with a little voice saying, I can do it, to like, hey, I did it, you know? And I think that's incredible. Now, Dark Souls. We have to talk about Dark Souls. It must be addressed. Dark Souls is a game that you might argue does this same thing, this confidence thing. But Dark Souls is brutal. And I think it's constantly challenging you to quit. This is the difference. Celeste is always encouraging you a little bit. It's always saying, you can do it. It's always saying, there's no reason to believe you can't do this. I'm telling you, you can do it. I believe in you. I support you. You're going to do it. Dark Souls says, screw you. You're not going to do it. You cannot do this. You should quit now. Quit. It's constantly beating you up a little bit. It's constantly saying, yeah, but you suck. Get out of here. Get wrecked. Get destroyed. And then you have to find something in yourself that goes, no, I'm gonna beat this. I'm gonna win. Right? I'm making myself want to play Dark Souls. I've not beaten Dark Souls. I look at that game and I go, there's enough hard stuff. I don't want to do this one. Right? Maybe one day. But Dark Souls, I think, has an upward spiral for the player, not just the progression of the game. I think the player has to develop some level of I'm going to do this thing no matter how hard you make it for me, no matter how cruel you are, no matter how difficult this becomes, I'm gonna beat this, right? And that's a little different from when the game is encouraging you to do it, right? Like nobody is like out here going, man, Celeste was the hardest thing I ever played. It was so brutal. It kept beating me down. It kept trying to kick my butt. No, people like Celeste was this beautiful emotional journey and it was really difficult and I'm glad I conquered it. Dark Souls, people are like, God, that game is brutal, right? It's cruel to you. And the journey that you're going through in that game is not really beating the bosses. The progression to that game to me is not I'm going to beat this boss, then this boss, then this boss. The progression of that game is I'm going to deal with this. I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to put up with it and I'm going to figure it out. And then again, and then again, and then again. And there are so many games that have some unique approach to this, some unique emotional journey that they take you on, not just the gameplay. There are so many instances where the game is going, can you do this? Are you going to learn these skills? It kind of looks through the screen just a tiny bit, just a little peek and goes, are you willing to grind for 200 hours just to beat this one boss? Are you the kind of guy who wants to do that? Do you want to dodge 200 lightning bolts in Final Fantasy X? Do you want to get the Chocobo race under 0.0 seconds? Because it has to be under 0.0 seconds, not flat 0.0, in order to unlock this thing for this weapon that you don't even need? Are you going to do that? There are little things in games that ask us this. They're like, how committed are you to this underlying grind? How committed are you to getting better at this game? Like I finished Celeste. I didn't do all the extra stuff. I didn't do all the B-sides and stuff. I might do it on this playthrough that I'm doing on stream. I don't know. But these games ask us, okay, you've been enjoying getting better at this thing. How committed are you to it? Are you going to keep getting better at it? Are you trying to go not just through the game, but are you trying to keep climbing up even higher? How high do you want to go? You've gotten this good. There are all these possibilities. Do you want to keep going? Right? It's interesting. It's interesting game design. DDR does this to you physically. Dance Dance Revolution is like, okay, how's your coordination? Can you step on this arrow at the right time? Oh, apparently not. And then eventually you learn to do that. And they're like, okay, how crazy do you want to go with this? All right. How mad do you want to go on this game? This is a thing that I get so excited about because of my background in education too. I love tying this in. I love looking at how you teach somebody to play a musical instrument, right? You teach somebody, you work on the breathing, you work on holding the instrument, you work on just making the first sound. And if that student starts getting a consistent habit in, then it becomes like second nature. Now you've got the core level of the game mastered. You know how to breathe properly. You're doing it every time. Maybe we need a reminder every so often. And then you start building your scales. And then they start mastering these scales and they start reading sheet music and just nailing everything because they already know what they're doing, right? It's this in video games. And I think it's so easy to overlook the fact that video games are basically just teaching machines. And it's easy to take that and become super lame about it. All right? It's easy to go, oh, I'm going to use video games to teach everything. No, hold up. They're teaching machines in a very specific way. All right? It's not like you can be like, oh, I want to teach somebody this thing. Let me just gamify it. No, the real world skills need to be applied to the real world. I'm a big believer in that. But video games can very fundamentally, you look at a game, it's proof that learning things is enjoyable. All right? I know I'm getting off track a little bit here. But a video game and the love of video games that people have, it's proof that learning something is enjoyable. The catch is, how is the learning process? How smooth is this learning process? What can we do to make it smooth? Or what can we do to make it appealing even though it's not smooth, right? Do you love playing Dark Souls? Well, then maybe in your own game development, you're looking for something to bash your head against. Maybe you're looking for a big problem that you want to just tackle and beat the crap out of it and struggle and fail against over and over and over and over. Do you love playing JRPGs? Do you absolutely love just grinding on something for 200 hours and getting stronger and stronger and stronger until you go, okay, now I can handle this, that, or the other? Maybe that means that you want to go through some course. Maybe that means that you want to learn from books. Maybe you have a problem set that you want to work through. Maybe there's like here's LEET code. Here's like 400 problems you can do in this particular thing. I would request that you try to make it as real world as possible, because I think that is one instinct where it's really easy to go, I'm going to just read everything that exists on this because it's just grinding, right? It's just grinding and then I'll naturally be good at it. And then it's easy to fall into tutorial hell, right? So, but if you like a JRPG, maybe find some problem sets. Maybe find some stuff that is just like, here's practice. Here's some real world applications on like a small, very approachable kind of a way. And maybe I should do that, by the way, because I do like JRPGs. And I would love some just like problem sets, challenges. Here's a list of all these really easy progressive challenges that you do for like Godot or something. That would be beautiful. I'll look into that. If anybody has a resource for like, how do I put this? Like problem sets for game design. Does that make sense? Problem sets for game programming. Like, I think Distinguished Humans was trying to do something kind of like this at one point. I don't think I have the knowledge to build this up myself yet, but like, here is a list of 100 things that you do, one after the other, to just get better and better and better at this. That would be interesting. Now, let's move on. Let's keep talking. Maybe you're somebody who loves World of Warcraft. Well, how can you get that feeling of investment in your own game design, right? How can you get that feeling of, I'm investing in my skills, I'm getting stronger and stronger, I'm building up this kind of stuff? It may be similar to the JRPG move. I wonder if there's an angle for financial stuff. I'm not sure. I wonder if there's some angle of building up resources, or maybe creating like collecting tools might be huge in that case. Understanding the gear, understanding what is going to help you do this job the best you can. What tools do you have? Like, does Excalidraw help you a ton? Does this help? Like, you have a little toolbox. You have a list of like prompts that you use. You have a collection of all the code that you've written that you can go to and reuse over and over, right? You have folders of assets that you jump to, right? You've got all this kind of power behind it. That's an angle that could work if you're a lover of World of Warcraft. If it's Celeste, if somebody walking you through some of this stuff helps, if somebody being there supporting you while you take on the difficult thing helps, or having a longer term journey might help. It's something like, what am I getting at? There's something about looking at the games that you enjoy, looking at what it is on this deeper level about the game that appeals to you, what it is about this game that makes you go, ooh, there's something inside of me responding to this. Because I don't think the reason you're playing the game is because you want to see the character get from A to Z. I think the reason you're playing the game has to do with an emotional impact that it is having on you. And if you can peek at that emotional impact and peek at why you're willing to take the time to learn this thing, outside of like, okay, cool, it's rewarding me frequently. Yes, but it doesn't matter how shiny it is. There's still something in you that's motivating that. And that stuff is interesting. That interests me a lot. Now, I've got a few notes for this section. The spiral curriculum thing. This is the concept in education of very simple things building on top of themselves, right? So I may have covered this earlier, but we're going to reiterate if I did. I don't remember whether or not I left that in. What you do is you teach somebody something that is fundamentally true and you build on top of that. You don't teach them everything all at once. That overwhelms students. But you just teach them, hey, here's how you hold the instrument. They don't need to know how to play. They don't need to know how to do this, that, or the other. And then you teach them where to put the mouthpiece. And they don't need to know all the science behind exactly what is best to do with the corners of your mouth and all this stuff and all that. You don't worry about that. You just give them the fundamental basic building blocks. Games do the same thing. Games give you the fundamental basic building blocks. Now, the point I'm getting at here is in your own development, if you're self-teaching, do the same thing. Don't try to understand all the things because you're going to misunderstand a lot of the things. And one of the hardest parts about learning something is not learning the thing. It's unlearning the stuff you accidentally became certain of. You know what I'm saying? If you are certain that something is true, then you stop looking at it whenever someone's trying to teach you something, and you keep working off of this fundamental assumption, and then you can't see where you're mistaken, you know? So it's okay to not understand something and just embrace the part that you can understand, right? And sometimes you're going to be wrong still, right? That'll happen. But this spiral of learning things, this spiral of developing more skills, there are so many times when I start learning something for Godot and I go, okay, I have no idea. I don't understand that. But here's what I do understand, and then I can go mess with that, right? Getting a foothold, that's what this is for. Working on small projects, getting a foothold, and then building on top of that. Beating the rats in the dungeon so that next you can go fight the bandits, and then next you can go fight the hobgoblins, and then next you're working towards the dragon and whatever. Getting these footholds and just taking one little step up every time. Because you don't need to worry about fighting a deity yet. You're still fighting the goblins. Don't think about the deity while you're fighting the goblins, then you're screwed. Then you're completely doomed. And this spiral curriculum thing is really exciting for this upward spiral thing. It's so easy to go, I want to finish my game. No. No, I don't know. I mean, yes, that too, for sure. And we have that when we're playing a game. We have the I want to finish the game. But that's not the core. Like, in the moment that you're playing the game, if you're enjoying the game, you're thinking about what you're doing in the game right now. I've even talked about this before on the podcast. If you're playing the game, you're thinking about what you're enjoying in the game right then. You're locked in on that task. You're not thinking about the last hour of the game. You're not like the last hour in the game, not the last hour you just played, but the final hour of the game. You're not thinking about that while you're playing what you're playing. You're not constantly looking forward and going, ooh, what's it going to be like later? I mean, you might be excited about it, but you're not staring that down every moment, right? You're moving forward. You're enjoying the journey. I think it's the same thing in game development. Because who knows where it's going to take us? We can't predict that, right? There's a lot of stuff out of our control. Now, here's a big part of the upward spiral. I think this is huge. And there's not enough that I can say about it to really make the point, so I'm going to keep it very brief. When you have a victory, acknowledge the victory, because then you have a better foothold. Then you have a stronger foundation. If you succeed at something, you succeeded at it. Congratulations. Good job. Done. Right? That's it. That's the thing. Sometimes we have a tiny, tiny victory and we don't acknowledge it, and that kind of sucks. Not like you don't need to throw a freaking party because you wrote Hello World for the first time, but if it's a huge victory for you, then yeah, throw a party for it. Or at least be like, dude, first step done. Yeah. Oh, excuse me, I got the hiccups. First step done. Fantastic. Right? That, because it is fantastic. It's the first step. Don't go looking at somebody else and be like, oh man, but they published this game and made millions of dollars. Dude, whatever. They had the first step too, and they weren't thinking about that, right? Probably not. Maybe they were. It doesn't matter though. It doesn't help you to think about it. Just keep taking steps forward, right? And then this is an interesting bit for me. This is just something I'm thinking about with this. There's a velocity to any like spiral up or spiral down. There's a speed that you're moving at, and there's also an acceleration. And I think I can get overexcited and I can really put the pedal to the metal and then suddenly go, oh my God, I'm going way too fast. And then I got to hit the brakes, and then I got to put the pedal to the metal, and then I got to hit the brakes. And that's no good. We're wasting energy doing that. So I'm careful about that. And I learned about that principle from a HealthyGamerGG video. He's got some good stuff. I kind of ignore large elements of his stuff because it can get very there's a lot of like spiritual stuff, and I'm much more interested in like the scientific elements of like how people work and stuff. So but there's a bit that he was talking about, a little bit of knowledge that he was passing down about people working really hard to get momentum going and then stopping themselves, and then working really hard to get momentum going and then stopping themselves. And I think it's important to get to a velocity that you're comfortable with and then hold that for a bit before you accelerate more. And that's not exactly what he said, but that is what I ended up taking away from it. Because he was saying stop stopping yourself whenever you like manage to get momentum. I'm like, okay, cool. But in order to stop stopping myself, I have to get to a momentum that I'm comfortable with and then hang out there for a minute and make sure I can steer and then accelerate a little more if I'm safe there, right? Like I can move forward a little bit of it, up the velocity a little bit. Don't just crank on the accelerator as long as you possibly can and then panic, right? Because like that happens. And in the same way with game design, let's talk about all of this framed in game design really quickly. Give your player small projects and footholds and things that give them a little bit of confidence and make them move forward and make them go, ooh, I'm getting good at this. And then give them a little more challenge and then give them a little bit more. Celeste does this so well, dude. Right? Acknowledge player victories. This is what we're doing all the time. This is why we have like nice sound effects and flashing lights and all this stuff. We're so much better at this in game design than we are in real life for obvious reasons. But like, do that. Do that in real life too. But like in game design, acknowledge the player's victory. That's great. And then also this velocity and acceleration thing. That's core. We don't. How many games have you played where somebody chucks every single mechanic at you right at the beginning, or just goes way too quickly early on and you're just losing track of everything, and then you jump back into the game and you're like, how do I play this game again? What is going on? What? It's the same thing. Game design is the same thing as living life, you know? It's all I know that's like a weird reduction thing, but like it's so tightly connected. Like, video games are like weird little depictions of life. So the more you can pay attention to what's going on in life and how people are reacting to everything around them and what they're learning and how they learn and what they enjoy doing and why they enjoy doing it, the more you can learn about game design. There's all these weird little features going on, you know? There's all these weird little things that games do better for us than we do for ourselves. Like, They celebrate the tiniest victories. Look at the games you love playing, right? Look at the games the games that you just like can't stop playing. How do they celebrate your victory? World of Warcraft, you get a level up and it's like the gods have descended on the screen to celebrate you for killing 4 boars. You killed 4 boars, and then the game is like, you are a golden god. Here is a sound effect. Here are colors. Here's sparkles. Here's everything. You're such a good boy. You did so good. It's huge. It's huge, huge celebration. And then we go here in our real life and we go, man, I'm really trying to get healthier. I need to drink more water. And you're like, you drink a glass of water 3 times over the course of 3 days when normally all you ever do is drink soda. You've not just reversed bad momentum, you've started a healthy habit. You would have gotten a level up in a video game for that, for sure, right? Like, that's a huge quest. You pulled off a massive success in video game terms. In real life terms, we look at it and we go, oh, all I've done is drink 3 glasses of water. I haven't made any success. Because we're worried that people like make fun of us for like being happy with small victories. But games motivate the ever-living crap out of us by being happy with small victories. So, like, you know, you don't have to run around telling all your friends you drank 3 glasses of water, but you can feel good about it, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's all right. It's okay. You can feel good about small victories. You know what? In fact, it's good. Feel good about it. That's what I say. I say if you went on a walk today, that's a victory. Congratulations. I say that because I went on a walk today and I'm choosing to be proud of myself. All right, this is getting too weird. Let's finish this thing up. All right, I have got 2 questions for you this week, and for myself, I'll answer them. 1, what footholds have you recently found? Things that you can build off of. Nice, steady, nice, sturdy footholds. I think streaming on Twitch has been really good. I know I mentioned that, but that's been good because now there's I'm getting all this community support, and I really appreciate it, and it's nice. That's a good foothold for me. I recently got a little part-time gig that's going to be a huge support structure for me. But then you could just look at smaller footholds too, right? You can look at things that are just ooh, this is a nice little success. This is a nice little way to relax. This is a nice little foundational thing that I can build off of. What's an example of something? Honestly, I had big wins this week. So those are what I'm thinking of, because I got the part-time gig that I was I've been looking for a part-time gig for a little bit here, right? And so I'm happy to have some work again. So that's a big one for me. And then, yeah, the Twitch stuff is going well. Those are mine. That's what I'm going to go with. Next question. How might you build on your current victories? So what can you build on top of these things? For me, it's straightforward. I keep going with that. I can add new cool stuff to what I'm working on, right? I can keep improving the podcast, keep learning new things that I can do to make this more interesting for everybody, keep building the community. I can be smarter about my next monthly project for my for my monthly challenge that I started doing, and make the next monthly project how do I put this? Not bad. I can plan it a little bit more in advance, because boy, I'm not content with how this one turned out. It's essentially done. I'm gonna improve some artwork stuff, but it's done. It's the end of the month, and I'm not happy with it. But I did it, and that is a success. That's a genuine success. I did the thing, and I learned a lot from it. So there we go. So that's how I can build on my current victories. That got a little negative, didn't it? The thing I can build off of that is finishing that project was a success, and I can build on it by planning a little bit better at the beginning of the next project, and laying out the game design a little bit more clearly, and laying out the goals a little bit more clearly. I think that's a great thing I can build on. And I can do a little bit of a post-mortem on the first one to learn from it, to make more progress in the second one, and then be happier with what I'm learning. Basically, I can gather EXP and get a little level up from finishing that first project. Now, the tip for myself this week is to be patient and work consistently. That's basically where I'm at right now. It's just, all right, be patient, work consistently. Let's keep going. Basically, I want to maintain velocity. I don't want to accelerate yet. I have a bunch of ideas that I want to do, which would definitely count as an acceleration, but I've got enough going on. We just need to maintain velocity and then stabilize that for a little bit, and then start working on the cool, fun new stuff once I get a chance, once it feels a little bit more stabilized. That's everything. Quick self promo. I've got the Twitch stream Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern to 7 p.m. Eastern. We do 3 hours of game dev and then 2 hours of gaming. Games right now are Celeste Mondays, Dust Force Wednesdays, and Hollow Knight Fridays. I've never beaten Hollow Knight before, so that's exciting. If you're listening to this far in the future, I've got no idea what I'm playing right now. We'll find out, right? And if you catch me on the Monday stream, it'll be the last stream of the game I'm currently working on. It will mostly just be artwork I'm expecting, but last stream for this current project. And then we go to a brand new project on, I guess it's the Wednesday stream. Yeah, we'll go to a new project then. That should be fun. That should be interesting. We've got the Discord. You can join that. Everybody's pretty cool. Everybody's pretty chill. I've also got the Ko-Fi. If you want to make any kind of donation, if you want to contribute to the podcast, that is the best place to do it. All right, that is everything for this week. I will catch you in the next one. Until then, get out there, make some stuff, and have fun with it. I'll see you later.